Hello, and welcome to episode 40 of No Particular Reason. I am your host, Yanko, and we're here with my wonderful co host, Kerri Lewis.
What's
Uh,
going on? So, guys, I'm attempting to go live with Instagram because what happened was Yanko and I, as my daughter would like to say, we were yappers and we were having a good time yapping. So, I forgot to set this up. So, that is what I'm doing right now. But as I figure out my life, Yanko, what's popping in your world?
well, the usual stuff. The holidays are getting close. We're just sent out one of the holidays. Thanksgiving, it's out of the door, and now we're looking forward to Christmas and New Year, and all the festivities are still going. And it's kind of nice because I forgot what it felt like to have those cold temperatures here in the Chicago area when it's like really freezing outside and your door handle sticks to your hand when you try to open the door.
What's the temperature there? Because it's not that cold here.
Well, it now it's not, but I don't know. I haven't been outside. Yesterday, I had to go outside a couple of times, and every time I did, I regretted it. I was like, I just want to be warm at home and sit by the Christmas tree and just drink hot cocoa or coffee or something like that, and just feel warm. That's about it.
Yeah, no. See, I feel that, and I think we might. I don't know. It's supposedly sending data. We'll see if it works, but um, yeah, we had snow for the first time this year, this week, and I was just telling Yanko I was caught by my daughter's friend's mom, which I don't care about. Caught is like a judgmental word, but it's not even like that. I was outside dancing in the snow and just taking in every snowflake and every like is just so picturesque and perfect, and it just brought so much joy to my life.
Yeah, I love snow too. When it's snowing, it's kind of mild, but usually here when it stops snowing and the temperatures drop and we get those cold winds from Canada, everything freezes really badly. So we'll see.
Well, listen, it was beautiful. And now we're here, and it's a new day of new experiences, and I'm gonna leave Instagram alone because it's taking me away from my focus here, and I don't like that. So, um,
Don't even stress about it because I think we're not going to have this problem for long. I'm already having a solution. So that you'll see. Wait until you hear about that.
I love it. So I was talking to you before we jumped on, guys. I think that what I want to talk about today is my experience cutting out gluten and sugar and then eating it. Um, for the past few weeks, I cut out sugar and gluten because a beautiful woman, Inga Young, who I interviewed, um, who is 86 years young, literally, she's gorgeous, was talking to me about the impacts of sugar and particularly gluten produced in the US because it's basically Roundup has on our body. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to test the theory. I always like to experiment with things that I hear rather than believe what everybody says. So, what I did was I cut it out, and then the past 2 days, I kind of introduced a little bit of both. Whoa, guys, on the real, I said to Yanko, it absolutely impacts your ability to critically think. It My body feels a little bit more like inflamed, like I it's hard to tell, like, just and it's been profoundly eye-opening because even today, I woke up and I felt a little meh, right? I like and I have all my practices, right? So I can bring my energy up pretty quickly, but I found it was more difficult. And I have no doubt that it's as a result from eating sugar and gluten.
Yeah. I experimented myself a year or two back when I cleaned up the gluten. I took it out of the diet,
Yep.
um, and and then I did the same with sugar. And yeah, it does affect your mindset. Like anything affects the body, and then the body affects the mind, and the other way around. The mind affects the body, so they're both really connected. And a lot of people don't understand that until they actually get to the point where they can have that body mind connection. But there is more. There's also spirit, so it's body mind spirit.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting just because it was such a stark noticeable difference. I was like, damn, which is cool because I fundamentally believe, right? You have to have these insights to make more informed choices. And,
Right.
I share with my community all the time. I never want anybody to believe what I say. I'm not the person who says, oh, take my word at face value, because I fundamentally believe that our journeys are so individual and unique. I do strongly encourage people, though, to consider themselves their own scientists. Like, be curious and try new things, take away new things, and see how it impacts your daily rhythms. And then inevitably, right, for me, I went back to sugar. It's a holiday season. It's so prevalent, and I didn't want to cook yesterday, so I ate pizza, and then I woke up this morning, I'm like, "Oh, damn. Thank you." And that's when I'm just grateful, right? I don't judge myself for having eaten sugar. I don't get upset with myself for going back to pizza. It's an easy thing to defer to, but I'm grateful for the awareness I now have of just how those choices impact how I experience my everyday life, because now I can just continue to learn and make more informed choices. And am I going to say I'm never going to have sugar ever in my life? I'll never say never to anything because I don't know, or that I'll never eat a slice of pizza. I wouldn't say that, but I do know that I have this information stored in my brain now that will allow me to make choices more readily, that will impact me, either in a way that makes my body feel like it has more fuel and more energy, or less fuel and less energy.
That's right. And I want to bring up what Gail says. We say hello, Gail. Yeah. And I resonate with the same that you follow up with the sugar, use raw sugar or honey. Um, I had bees, beehives. I kept bees, and I can say that um, raw honey, it's the best way to go. Not only because it's natural, but also because the whole structure is different on a molecular level. When I was experimenting with different things, I was reading about like how the sugar molecules clump together. They come to odd and even numbers, and different bodies absorb once one way or another one the other way. So it depends on like how do you absorb it and how your body deals with it. You'll have a different outcome. But to me personally, I think I have to be balanced unless I'm going for a goal. Like, say, if I'm more to be in a competition for bodybuilding or something, then I'll get the body certain things to get it to look the way I want it to look. So, again, if you're going after something certain that the body needs to be on certain diet, then that'll be the way to go. Otherwise, balance food of everything, of a little bit of everything, works great for me.
Yeah, but let me ask you something. Do you eat processed sugar? Like sugar with dyes, or sugar that
No, I actually made a post. I'm very mindful of the foods that I'm buying, and reading the labels. It's a one thing, but there could be misleading because they're starting to put different names to different things to confuse people. There's like I come to find out about a coloring that they're using in some foods that they made out of this parasite aqua buck that they squish and dry to get this like a really red out of it. Um, and some of those, when you use it as a dye in the foods, can um, create allergic reactions in some people's bodies where the body will react a certain way because they're not meant to be used that way, but they're just used that way. So that's one example I can talk about. But I don't want to like bring brand names or anything like it. It's always the consumer's
Well, this is what I'm going to interject.
responsibility to
Yeah.
like read the labels and choose.
But here's what I would fundamentally say to people, because I mean, I that could feel just so overwhelming for most of the people. They're like, I'm just trying to pay my bills, make sure my kids get fed. And I get it, right? I mean, I'm a mom of two. I run a business. What I would say is just start with one thing. Just it can be small. Incorporate more vegetables into your diet. I'm gonna call out my man's because I love him very much. Mr. Nana Ajman does not eat vegetables. He's a chicken and rice guy. And I'm like, that's great, but our body benefits from having vegetables in it as well. So if you just slowly incorporate one thing or eliminate one thing, it doesn't have to feel like you have to read every label and everything, because that's too overwhelming, but just give yourself permission to get curious about how you feel. Just like me, right? I Over the course of many years, people have told me about sugars and glutens. I've had that awareness, but I wasn't ready to do anything about it. And then one day I'm like, oh, I'm going to try it. And then 2 days ago, I'm like, oh, I'm going to eat it. And then it allowed me to have a different experience. And ultimately, that's what I really encourage people to give themselves permission to do, is have new experiences and then make a choice. Right? We're so conditioned to operate the same way all the time, right? Mom always used a certain brand of whatever for Thanksgiving. And
Yeah,
so 40 freaking years later, guess what? Kerri's in the freezer pulling out Velveeta cheese. And it's so funny because I looked at Nana this past Thanksgiving and I said, this is the last year I'm going to continue to cook the foods that I grew up cooking, because why am I just going? But it's just habit. It's not good or bad. It's just my natural default mode of thinking. But because I've given myself permission to have different experiences with different types of foods and how I feel consuming them, I have an awareness I didn't otherwise have that says, oh, if you don't eat processed garbage like certain fake cheeses, then you feel better.
that's right.
Right?
And another thing comes to mind that I wanted to bring out is that not everybody's body it's the same. Kind of like everyone has a different mindset. Some people are more analytical, some people are not, and I don't know if it's like genetics or epigenetics or what it is, but there's different types. Like if you look at the Eastern philosophies, they have the Ayurveda where they put the different types of bodies in different categories.
Yep.
And when I experimented with that I found out that for the type of body I am, I have to stay away from fats. Like fats are really like because I'm already in that state of like calmness and like not like really energetics. The fats kind of put me down more, so they're not like really helping me to be of more energetic way of being versus not having as much. So that kind of taught me of like, okay, I can still have some, but like I don't have to go overboard, and I can, see how I feel energetically, or like how I feel like, you know, do I feel like I want to go and sleep after I ate, or I feel like I can go outside and do backflips.
Yeah, it's true, right? Like today,
Right.
I definitely feel more lethargic and I have no and more inflamed. Like my body is sore today. And I know 100% it's because of what I consumed for sure. But I want to go back to something because you said some people are more analytical and some people are more this. And you're fundamentally right, right? Because earlier before we hit live, you and I were talking about solar flares and how
Mm.
right now there's solar flares that are impacting the energetic waves of the earth. And I said to you, well, I don't follow that stuff. And so the reason why, guys, is I'm a rabbit hole type of girl, right? Like if I consume something and it's like I have to understand fundamentally every part of all of the stuff. It's why I don't study human design. It's why I don't study astrology. I am highly intuitive. I absolutely am psychic in that if you're upset, I will know to send you a card or sing a song or whatever, but I don't have to study any of that to know it. I just know it. And the minute I start studying it, you know what happens? I'm an ego mind and I actually separate myself from my ability to tap in and tune in. And so this whole food awareness just allowed me to be like, oh my gosh, like I do much better with the experience. I don't have to overthink it. I don't have to overstudy it. I don't have to know how some dye was created by some parasite bug that was shriveled and shrunk. And I don't. I just have to be like, oh, I feel like crap today. Oh, I feel really good. How do I want to feel? I want to feel more good. I'm going to choose this. And I don't overthink it. And when I think about my clients that I fundamentally work with, addiction, right? It's this pervasive leaning into a repetitive behavior. Why? Because people sit in suffering. Why do they sit in suffering? Overthinking, thinking about their past, thinking about their future, thinking about what they just did 2 minutes ago, thinking about what they're going to do 5 minutes from now. But what if you just give yourself permission to experience it, guys? Right? And instead of being like, oh, I got to study now all of the things that sugar does. No, you don't. No, you don't. Give yourself permission to be like, you know what? I'm just going to cut out sugar for a little bit and see how I feel. And for extra points, I'm going to eat sugar one day and see how I feel. Oh, this feels icky sticky. I'm going to go back to cutting out sugar or not, right? It doesn't really matter. It's whatever floats your boat. But for me, I just do a much better, I have a much calmer, more peaceful existence when I don't overthink things and I just am come from curiosity and I'm willing to just go with whatever I'm inspired to do in the moment.
And ultimately, that's the way to go, because you can make all the research and everything, and then in a split second, you're going to make that decision. So off the door goes all the research and everything. And that might be contradictory to what I said, but I, the only point I brought this up was because it just kind of flowed with the conversation about the foods and everything. The research kind of came to me because my son he had an allergic reaction. So it wasn't something that I went to like look for and analyze and do, because ultimately I come to a conclusion that we don't know. Our mind it doesn't know everything. The mind it's there to help you solve problems, but some problems cannot be solved with the mind, and that's my personal belief. um, because you don't beat your heart consciously. You don't do a lot of things consciously that are happening inside. There's a lot of things that are happening, and it starts with the first step to get aware of like how do you do things and where those things are coming from, because a lot of the things are happening unconsciously. You're going in autopilot. I had this like realization when I first started to meditate that like, why didn't I not do that for like so many years when I was young? Because I felt like I was running an autopilot. I felt like life. I was just not aware of what's going on. Like life passed me by. I was there, but I wasn't like my mind was occupied with other things instead of being in the moment, being aware of what's going on because moments are going like that, like one moment to the next moment and that's how it goes.
Yeah.
So
It's interesting. So I did an exercise with my community yesterday. So I have a community where I educate people and help them practice having tough conversations or
mhm.
uncomfortable conversations with themselves and others. Um, and I asked the group what they understood of the present moment to be. And it's very fascinating what people's understanding of the present moment is. So I'm curious, since you brought it up, what is your understanding of being in this present moment, Yanko?
Being in the present moment, not fantasizing about something else, not having my mind um, coming with solutions or anything. Because like, if you listen to somebody, like when I'm having conversation with you, I'm not automatically coming with like, oh, this and that. Sometimes that happens, but a lot of the times I'm just present and having that conversation. I'm not making assumptions when the conversation is going. I used to do that, and sometimes I catch myself, or like I'll have this like, oh, like I want to jump in the middle of somebody speaking because I feel like, oh, I have this like a thought that's going to escape me or something else going to happen. So that's one of the examples that being present 100%, it's being present 100%. There, you're not allowing your mind to wander. Like if you're washing the dishes, you're washing the dishes. You're not just washing the dishes but then fantasizing of like what are you going to go buy or what food you're going to cook next or what's going to be next on the list. You're 100% there. Does that make sense the way I'm explaining it?
Yeah, I love it. And actually, that was the exercise that I myself practiced a lot. Is I would watch the bubbles, and then if you watch the bubbles when you're washing dishes, you can see the color of the rainbow in the bubbles if you're really present. And then watching the bubbles like flow off of the plate and feeling the temperature of the water against your skin, and then watching the water drip from, and that is presence, right? It's why, you can fundamentally tell when literature was written by somebody who is able to tap into presence, because they're able to cultivate within you the experience, right?
That's Yeah, I was gonna say that when you're present, then you can recreate that experience for somebody else, and I find that really interesting when I'm hypnotizing people because like I can use things like that like I've observed, and I can throw it out and recreate this whole experience, and they can go deeper and have the same experience. That I mean, it's not gonna be the same experience because not everything it's different, but you have that ability.
Yeah.
Yes,
Well,
you're
I mean,
100%.
for me to go into alpha states, right, which is where I do my problem solving for a lot of things. If I'm going into meditation, I have a very, very vivid, specific place, right? And it's all because of the fact that in my daily life, I've been present to what a cosmos flower looks like, to what the petal of a specific English rose feels like and smells like, and the laughter that goes around when people are at a cafe, and like the conversations and the clinking of the cup hitting the plate as people put it down. That's presence, guys. And I always get a kick, right? Because I'm constantly Nana laughs at me. He's like, "Oh my gosh, babe," because I'll be driving. I'm like, "Oh my god, did you see the hawk?" And he's like,
I,
"Perfect."
I love it.
All the time, right?
I'm aware of those things too. Like you
And
go
that's the
around
truth
and yeah.
is, if you're in your mind, guys, You're
You're
not
missing
gonna
the
pick up
present.
on that.
Yeah.
And it's funny because I was talking to a client like 2 months ago, and this client said to me, "My boyfriend thinks that I'm getting dementia," and I was like, "Well, why is that?" And so this person said, "Well, we were driving down the street and I was looking around the street and I was noticing all these things. And I was like, wow, this is such a cool street. We've never been down it before." And the boyfriend goes, "Babe, you're losing your mind. Like, we go down the street all the time." And
Yeah.
they really thought they were losing their mind. But the thing is, they weren't. They, when you're unconscious, guys, you are constantly in your head, constantly thinking about, which means you could go down the same street 1,000 times and never notice the bright red brick building with the fire station sign and the doggy statue in the middle with the, because you're in your mind, you're in your head. But the minute you start to give yourself permission to, okay, I'm going to feel into my car seat. I'm just going to feel what my booty feels like sitting here. And I'm going to feel the window. It's winter, right? So the window's cold against the heat in the car. That's presence. Then I'm going to look around. You are going to remember and pick up on experiences and sights that you would not have otherwise seen, because now you're not in your head overthinking. You're experiencing what it's actually like to be down that street, to be in that car, to feel what's going on right now, rather than what has gone on in your head in the past or worrying about the future.
And I'm gonna bring out what Gail said, which I kind of like here too. When you're not present, that's also what happens when you're analytical. Um, but the best example I can give is, and I've probably said that before, it's with the police. Like, if there is an accident and interviewing everybody, they get everybody's different version. Like, to complete a complete version of, because everyone perceives it differently based on their mind and how they've seen it. They may say, "Oh, this was like, so scary," or whatever, and the other one might say, "Wow, it was just a boom and then they happen," whatever. So everyone, based on their presence or whatever, might experience one thing differently, and not everything is the same. You might be going down the same road every day, but it'll be different every time. If you're present, it'll be totally different. So then you're gonna enjoy life a lot more because you're gonna be present. You're not gonna be like, "Oh, I this again." I feel like this is happening, because that sometimes happens to me. I feel like Groundhog Day, that everything keeps repeating and it's the same thing, but it's not.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and that's the thing is, even 2, 3 days ago when I was outside, like dancing in the snow, waiting for my kids, each snowflake was very different. But if
Mhm.
you're not aware, if you're not like just absorbed in that moment, it could very well seem like it's all the same. It's all the same humdrum, but it's not. And that is the gift of connection, which is what Gail just alluded to. And it cracks me up because all my, not all, some of my clients will be like, "Oh my God, I have so much more work to do." I'm like, "No, you don't." Like, what do you mean? If you can stay in this present moment, what work do you have to do? If you fundamentally achieved peace in this moment, right? But then our mind is like, "Oh my God, you got to work out the problem that your mama wounded you when you were 12 years old, and you got to figure out why she said that to you." No, you know, if you're going to, why do you need to do that?
I
Why
know,
do
because
you
your
want to
mind,
know?
your mind will do that to you. I know. I was
Like,
thinking about the same thing when you're talking about like touching the window or something. Some experiences will bring up memories out of you because they'll remind you of something, because you've already been conditioned to something. So that's the programming that we talk about in every episode. We talk about programming, and you're being programmed, and how to deprogram yourself, and that'll happen. So
yeah,
you have an experience, you think you're in the moment, you touch something, you see something, you smell something. Like you said, you might be in the cafe and you drink the cafe. Like that actually happened to me. I love coffee. Like I grew up with like Turkish coffee. I grew up with like, there you go.
I poured coffee on me to show you guys.
This is how real it is, guys. But like
I'm gonna smell
espresso, you
yummy for
don't
the rest of the day.
yeah, you don't chuck the espresso like you do American coffee. I had to learn how to do that here, and it was a switch when I went back. I missed the American coffee where I can have a big cup of coffee and just like sipping it, like sipping a brandy and just tasting the taste of it. But to go back to what I was saying, sitting in a coffee place, enjoying a coffee, a certain coffee, bring up a memory of like me having this Turkish coffee with like well, back then when I was growing up and other things. And then off your mind goes and you're not present anymore. You start thinking like, oh, it was a wonderful time. And then you start feeling bad. And then you get depressed and you're thinking, wow, I can't have that experience again. You always want to like recreate the experience, and that's where the whole thing starts. But if
Well,
you're present, yeah, go ahead.
I want to talk about that because I fundamentally believe that, kind of this alludes to what Gail was just saying too, is in the present moment, we can heal from anything. And I'm going to give you guys a real time example. So there's this gentleman who kept showing up at one of my networking group. And oh my, I really work hard not to make up the story, but energetically my energy was like nah, like block, like meh, nope. But instead of running from it and making up a story, I just allowed myself to just feel into the experience, just witness it without judgment. And like 2-3 weeks in, all of a sudden I just remembered, right? As a young little girl, I was constantly in situations where I had dominating male figures over me, telling me what I needed to do, how I needed to do it, and not being able to voice my opinion without being shushed. In that realization, I thanked the gentleman who was in my group real time. Like I actually told him because I keep it 100. So if your energy irritates me, I'll probably tell you, but not in a way this is your bad. I'm like, wow, something's coming up for me. In that moment, I was able to be like, you're not a little girl. You are empowered to speak your truth. You are fully confident in the space to be safe and to take care of yourself, right? And I was able to heal that story in the present moment. And that's what I really encourage people to do is I think so often, again, alluding to what my clients say, oh my God, I have so much work to do and I got to unpack all this stuff. And no, you don't. Life will help you heal in the moment. But the problem is people resist it, right? Or they make up stories. So
Right.
just say I walk in a room and I see Yanko, and all of a sudden I'm like, oh my God, there's a big stocky guy who has gruff. He's scary. I'm running. Ah, and I run. I missed the opportunity to get curious and be like, well, what about it that is scary? And again, I've shared this many of the times with lots of people. For years, I was terrified to be in a room filled with Black men. Not one, not two. My parents taught me not like everybody's equal, but you get me in a room of Black men and forget about it. My defenses were up. But as I kept doing this work, instead of running from that, I leaned in. I just leaned in to the experience. And I was like, well, what is it? And in that moment, I'm like, oh my God, I've been programmed since the 90s at least that if you have a collective of Black men, they're either gang affiliated or they're criminals or they're drug dealers. And so I had this belief in me that I wasn't aware of, guys. This is the thing. Logically, I couldn't have told you that. But because I didn't run from the experience, I was able to pull in real time that moment and then say, well, does this belief serve me? Is this real? No, it's not. I released it. And ever since then, I am unbothered. I have the best experiences with all men. And then if something comes up in the moment, just like it did in my networking group, I don't run from it. I lean into it and I heal myself in that moment.
Yeah. I think part of the whole human experience is that you come unprogrammed and you get programmed half to your life, and then the other half you start getting deprogrammed.
Programming.
Yeah, and this is why they're saying you're a little kid when you're born and you're a little kid when you die, because like you start realizing that none of that matter. It was all garbage, and you go back more and more and more as you mature and you get like older and older. You're like, none of that matter. Like none of the money that I made in the beginning of life mattered now, or none of these other things matter, or like maybe they'll be to a point where half the family is already gone, but they're there. It's like none of that mattered. They had the time where they could have been with family, but now they're there. So,
Yes.
you start from one point and you get to the same point you begin at, and it's
Yeah.
wonderful.
And it's so interesting because I watch, my daughters are 15 and 16. So they're really starting to step into their own individual life experiences. And I was at my kids' school the other day and I was talking to some of the parents who all like oh my God, my daughter's going off to school next year. I just can't believe it. And I was like, I don't think like that at all anymore. I'm just like, I just watched my daughter like kick ass at a holiday concert and I'm watching her engage with her friends and do really hard things. And I think again, if we can sit in this present moment, we're not experiencing loss. We're not experiencing lack. It's a gift of the present moment. That we allow ourselves to just be in, and that is pure bliss. It really is. It sounds so fluffy, but it just is.
Don't take our word for it. Try it. I
Yeah,
dare you,
please.
try it. The more you do it, the more it happens naturally through the day. You'll have a moment where you're sitting, and if there's somebody, they'll be like, what are you so in awe about? Like you might be in a moment in looking at a sunrise or something else, and your mind just stops, and you're like really present. You're like, this is it. Like, and
Yeah.
but then everybody around it's keep going, and they're like, like, what's wrong with you? Like, what's going on here?
Which is also, why, for me, my story, I don't know what anybody else's story was, but I can tell you, um, fundamentally, my one of my biggest struggles in much of the years that I've spent in this experience is fear of what other people think. I mean, I remember meditating 10 years ago and there's no way I can sit in a busy cafe or a train station and close down my eyes and meditate while people are gonna look at me, people, right, all this stuff. And so it's why I really work to encourage people to give themselves permission to let that go, because when you can just be and you're not concerned about the good opinion of other people, then you get to be more spontaneous, and in that spontaneity you experience so many things, right? Nana and I are highly spontaneous, and some of the stuff we do is beyond outrageous. It might offend people's senses, it might, but the thing is me and him laugh 100% of the time when we're together. Like we crack each other up. And that is a gift that I've given myself by not allowing myself to be dictated by what other people think about me. But it's a practice. And what I said to somebody the other day, and this is true, I have experienced a lot of wounds getting to where I am now, because the more empowered you are, the more confident you are, you tend to rub against other people's insecurities unintentionally. And so it can cause visceral reactions within other people where they may lash out. And that's where you become unshakably resilient in your own self-love for yourself, and you don't concern yourself with how other people respond to you being you,
Because you're you.
because you
Nobody can be.
can't
Yeah,
you
nobody can be you.
Yeah, and you is gift. Like, that's what I say. I'm like, "Man, I don't wanna be like Gail Craft." I love Gail Craft. Gail Craft is a gift to the world, and yet you couldn't pay me to operate like Gail Craft. I don't wanna be like Yanko, because I love Yanko, but I like Kerri. I like that I could literally, while Yanko's sitting on there, spontaneously sing a song to somebody who I know is stressed out and come up with something. If I was anybody but me, I may not have that gift. And so it's really allowing yourself to lean into what feels good for you, even if it makes no sense to anybody around you.
It doesn't have to make sense to anybody. Just
Yeah,
so you know,
it shouldn't.
because
Because if it does make sense to anybody else, you're conforming to
that's right.
expectations of somebody
Right.
else.
And you're losing your identity. You're losing your true self. You're losing who you are because you're nobody's like you. So if you're like everybody else, what will make you different? Like, how would you be you if you're like everybody else?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's totally true. It's totally true. But it's a practice, guys, just like eating the foods, right? Eating and experiencing your body. Today, for the moment, I definitely feel more icky, but I'm not judging that experience. I'm just sitting with it, and I'm using it to inform my choices about eating, or how I show up singing a song informs my choices about maybe singing another song or maybe not, or whatever, right? Is you it There's no roadmap to you. It's continuously being curious and leaning into your experience and allowing it to unfold without judging it.
Yeah. And as you get older, you might realize that the body will start wearing off and you're going to be in the same mindset. So that'll be something newer that you experience. Um, and so food choice and other things might become more important or less important, depends on like how the body wears off or like what's happening. So yeah, it's a totally different experience. The whole human experience is wonderful. To get from nothing to something only to come become nothing again.
It is. And think about it. I mean, even in our show, we start the show for no particular reason. It unfolds beautifully and then it shuts down. And then, a week from now, we may show up, we may not. I mean, I would venture to say we will, because Yanko and I have a blast. But, like, there's just so many variables. There's so many unexpecteds. There's so many unknowns. And it's so funny because yesterday I was talking to my father, who was discussing how people hate change. And I just chuckle because change is a constant. We're not even the same person we were 44 minutes ago before we had this conversation.
Yep. Body changes, structural level changes, your inside out, everything changes.
Yep.
Yeah. And I love Gail. Gail, thanks for sticking around today with us and being a great support.
You are welcome to pop in and offer your wisdom, as
Yeah,
if than
anytime
words, but that's
yeah.
up to you. You could just like pop in. This is all about flow and going with the flow and how it's gonna go.
That's what I was gonna say. You're Gail, you almost not almost, but you always, that's what I wanted to say. You always welcome to come in on Fridays when you have the time. If you're free, Then just hit us up before we start or in the middle of it. Jump in, join the conversation. Matter of fact, we encourage any of our viewers to do the same. If they
Anybody.
want to jump in, yeah, we'll bring you in. All you need to do is have a camera and microphone. Yep.
Well, and go through the headache of signing up for Restream. Sorry, guys, it's not as easy as we had always hoped. But you know what? It's life, and we roll with the punches. And to even that point, we just started playing with another streaming platform, which didn't end up working out the way we had anticipated. So it's just, but there's no expectation. It's just coming from curiosity and trying new things. And when we close ourselves off, we limit ourselves, guys. When we have this finite idea of how something needs to work or how something needs to go, then we don't open ourselves up to new possibilities, and I was telling my father, um the reality is the greatest the greatest inventions of our of all time have come from imagination, have come from curiosity, have come from not having an expectation around how it's going to look, work, flow, and be. And we cut ourselves off from incredible solutions to everyday challenges when we think that we have to figure it out a certain way, i.e., therapy works for some people, but it hasn't worked for a lot of people. And what if instead of just giving up on trying to heal, you try something else? Breath work, tapping, getting lost in nature, connecting with a hypnotist, going for Reiki. There's so going to dance. I was encouraging somebody the other day. They're like, "Oh, I know I need to move my body, but I'm just so busy." I'm like, "Take 5 minutes, pop on a happy song and just dance." Right?
Yeah.
There's no one way to experience life, and there's no one way to get you to a place of peace. But there is a responsibility, I believe, to yourself to open your mind to new experiences so that way you can start to teach yourself that just because it's what you've known doesn't mean it's what you're stuck with.
Yeah. Yeah. I like to add about the dancing. And I'm going to bring up Gail's comment again. Um, Dancing, it's something that happens spontaneously and there's no mind involved. You're just in the moment. So, that from hypnotist point of view, if that matters to anybody, it'll take you away from whatever you've been thinking because you're going to be more present in like whatever you're doing because there's no point to dancing. Same as like drawing, there's no point to it. If there was a point, people will rush from the one side of the dance floor to the other side of the dance floor, and there'll be competitions of like who's going to dance faster than the other and get to the other point or whatever. So there's no point in dancing. The whole point of dancing is to be in the moment and enjoy the dance and let it unfold the way it unfolds, and
But
there's no wrong or right way to do it.
But I would venture to say you've got to give yourself permission because I see a lot of people on the dance floor who don't dance. You may
Right.
move your body a little bit, but you may
Right.
listen because you're still in your head. Like true dance is truly surrendering to the moment and just letting your body move however. It's the same as me singing, right? Like I can just sing and I'm not thinking about what I sing. In fact, a lot of the random poetry I put up on my social is me singing into a mic and then just writing down what I sing. And it may make sense, it may not, but it's just flow and it's what pours from me, you know? So it's
Yeah.
giving yourself permission to not think about what other people think about you singing or dancing or coloring or creating whatever gift it is you're looking to create.
That'll be the point. It might be uncomfortable in the beginning, but like anything new, it's uncomfortable until you get kind of comfortable with it. But then being comfortable doesn't get you anywhere. So being uncomfortable gets you to move and evolve and get things going. So of course you're gonna feel uncomfortable when you first try it. Like in like you said, it might make people it might make you more not as much self-aware, like, or not care about like what other people think, because there's many people that are funny to watch, but they're just in the moment. They don't give a crap. They're having a blast. You're the one who's missing on the fun. Sitting on the side and judging people.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's so funny. I mean, I'm obviously not the traditional parent, and my teenage daughters, sometimes that's hard for them. They're like, "Mom, you're like so weird." And I'm like, that I can see where that would feel true for you, and yet I'm so joyful. And I would rather be joyful in the experience of being your mama than feeling like I need to perform a certain way, um because that's how I was told I need to be your mama. And in doing that, right, the greatest gift we give to others by being ourselves is permission for them to be themselves. And I think if you were to deduce down to the basic level how I work with my clients, is I am so unapologetically myself. And because of that, I make it feel safe for other people to give themselves permission to start to be unapologetically themselves. Because if you're yourself, you're not going to numb out. You're not going to be anxious. You're not going to struggle with depression because you're not suffering. If you're not suffering, why do you need to pick up a bottle or work 100 hours to achieve a result? You don't, you know? And that's my
Yeah.
my hope, or my wish for the world, is that people get to experience that freedom from suffering, that freedom from self-judgment and deprecation, and just allow themselves to just be okay with who they are in any given moment.
Yep. Nobody has life figured out. I don't think I have life figured out. I don't think any parent has the parenting figured out.
Hell
They're
no.
passing it. They're passing it from generation to generation. Like they give you advice of like, this is how you should be. Oh, this is bad. I'm like, I don't know. Like nobody figures this out. I didn't know that before I became a parent. So same goes with life. Like you can't figure life out. What's the point if you do? In nowadays, more and more I think that life has no meaning. We give life meaning. Like everyone gives life meaning the way they want it to. So you can have your meaning of life could be like totally different than anybody else, and that's okay. Because
Yeah,
like
for
life
sure.
is there to experience it. There's no meaning to life. Because like more and more people go like, well, what's the meaning of life? Well, why am I here? Like, is there like a certain purpose? I mean, you're here because you're unique, but then you give life a purpose. Like you create reality, literally and figuratively.
But that's true, right? Like, you and I have talked a lot about this. Like, for me, I believe fundamentally, for me, my experience is to sit in joy and to love. That's it. Outside of that, whatever. If I wake up every day and I'm able to sit in joy, laugh at myself, right? Like, look at and not take things seriously, and be able to be love for myself, love for my children, love for others, um, then that is good with me. I'm okay with that, right? Before it was, how much money can I make? How fast can I climb the corporate ladder? How much crap can I buy my kids so they know that mama loves them? Like and then it just felt very it just didn't serve me. And so I just decided that I was going to do something differently.
Yeah.
And
How
I
many?
got to tell you, I enjoy my life a lot.
Yeah. How many hours can I spend in the computer, or like how many hours can I work? How many overtime hours can I do? Like with all this monies and everything else. And the whole thing, it's again a lie. Like thinking of retirement, a lot of people are still working on that belief. I don't anymore. Like that you work hard, 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 hard. So when you get to be 80 years old, you're gonna enjoy life. No, you enjoy life now. There's no future. That's all fantasy in your mind that you're like fantasizing about. You make your life the way you want it to be.
Oh my God. Yeah. I mean, that could be a whole nother conversation, trust and believe, because I'm just like, yeah. Anyway, until next time, I'm going to leave you guys with this. Be open to trying new things. If it's cutting out sugar, if it's cutting out wheat for a day, if it's having a new experience at a Reiki practitioner, or picking up a book you wouldn't have thought you'd ever read. When you open yourself up to new experience, you open yourself up to new possibilities, and in that you get to experience maybe something that feels good for you that you wouldn't have otherwise known. So
Yeah.
curiosity, baby.
Surround yourself with people that you're not usually surrounding yourself with. So you can have a different experience. That's what I'll say. If you keep surrounding yourself with the same crowd, you're getting limited because you're getting the same result. Literally, like if you keep trying the same thing, it's idiotic to think that you're gonna get a different result. So surround yourself with different people and see what comes out of
Yeah,
that.
and then lastly, guys, not I almost called Yanko Nana. That's how much she's on my heart. Nana, I love you, babes. TikTok. Yanko and I are working to get 1,000 followers so we can stream live to TikTok too. So if any of you are watching this and are called to follow us on TikTok, mine's kerrylewis.coach and Yanko's is Yanko. What is it?
No,
It's
it's
Hypno Yanko.
Hypnoyan LLC,
Yeah.
the name of the
Uh,
company.
so we can stream live there too, because we just like to talk. And hey, 3 people are watching us right now, so maybe 3 more want to watch. You never know
That's
until
right.
you know. So until next time, guys, I hope you experience lots of joy and laughter and curiosity.
And thank you for sticking around with us in episode 40.
Oh shoot,
40.
40.
Yes, we get
Woo,
to 40. And so maybe you'll stick around until episode 100 or 200. Who knows? Let's see how it goes.